Fight number 3, folks. We have a fight 17 years in the making. We have Robbie Lawler versus Nick Diaz, number 2. Robbie Lawler, veteran of the Octagon, been here forever, since the early 2000s. He's coming off a 4-fight skid, which is never a good thing. He's always fought in the welterweight division of 170, former welterweight champion in the UFC for a couple years, I believe. He's coming at 5'11", the 74-inch reach. And Nick Diaz on the other side, he's coming at 6 foot, 185 and 76-inch reach. Find out Stockton, motherfucker, California. This is an interesting fight because I heard Dana White talking about last night that he doesn't know if this fight's going to be held at middleweight. Diaz camp wants it at middleweight. Robbie's doesn't know. So it'll be interesting if Nick's going to have to cut to 170 or they're going to fight at 185. I feel like this is a little late to be, discussing this, right?
Well, it's interesting because I've heard that the fight is going to take place under the 185 limit, but they just announced that this week. So that could only lead a reasonable person to imply a couple of things, being one, that one of these guys isn't going to be able to make weight. It appears that is going to be Nick Diaz because his is the camp that's vying for this 185 weight class change. I don't imagine that Robbie Lawler is going to turn it down. I don't really imagine that it's going to matter to Robbie Lawler. The dude's ruthless. He wants to fight. But I do have to give props to Nick Diaz because it sounds like he picked up an injury somewhere in his camp that's going to prevent him from making weight. And rather than cancel the match, he's like, just move the weight class. I want to get in there and fight. It sounds like Robbie wants to do the thing. So I'm not even completely opposed to moving the weight on this one. I don't think it really plays into either camp's advantage in any way.
This is a name legacy kind of fight. This doesn't have any bearing on a division. So that's why it doesn't matter.
Whoa. I disagree, man. I think if Nick Diaz wins, everybody at 170 is going to want a piece of that. Masvidal's going to call him out.
Well, they're going to call him out for the money fight and to, be a headliner. But it doesn't have any, I said it doesn't have any bearing on necessary rank right now. Obviously, yeah, bigger fights, sure. I think this is an interesting matchup. You don't know what you're going to get out of either guy. It's not like Robbie Lawler's been getting KO'd. He hasn't got the Chuck Liddell effect yet where he's just super chinny, which I thought when I saw he lost 4 fights in a row because I haven't really been keeping up with him lately, but I went back on watch. He still puts up a fight. He really does. He got destroyed by Neil Magny, though, taken down, just, dismantled in the clinch work, whatnot. But his fight against Colby Covington was a good fight to watch. I think one thing I saw from Robbie that I did not like in that fight particularly was he was throwing one punch. He wasn't throwing combos, and that's kind of worrisome. Also, the domination, the clinch work, that really worries me because that's kind of the Diaz's thing. They throw punches, they miss, they grab the back of the head, and they try to clinch up. And I think that Nick Diaz, we don't know what kind of Nick Diaz we're going to see. He hasn't been in the octagon in 5 years. The last fight he had was against Anderson Silva. So it'll be interesting. But you always know that the Diaz's are going to be in shape and they like to throw. So I think this has the writing on the wall to be a great fight. I honestly think Nick Diaz is going to take it to him. He's going to have the output. He's going to have the consistency. Now, is there going to be ring rust? Is there going to be errors in his game plan? Who knows? But I think it's going to be an entertaining fight to watch no matter what.
No.
Also, is this a 5-round fight? I believe it is.
No, I think it was originally scheduled. It might be. I'll
look it up.
Yeah, we should look that up. But
look that up and discuss.
There's a lot of fights that we've talked about since we started doing this show that I distinguish between the fighters based on certainty. I know what I'm going to get for them. I know what I'm going to get from them. And then uncertainty, where I'm just not completely sure what we're going to see from the guy. Typically, I'm willing to at least consider taking a risk on uncertainty when the guy's a prospect. But we're not looking at prospects here. We're looking at legends of the sport who are kind of aging out of that level of serious title contention. And they're only still around to put on these, crazy mega fights, 5-round non-title fight, Gage just confirmed, which has only happened once before for Nick's brother, Nate. I think it's crazy that they're even still around to do this, but I think on this fight, I'm going to err on the side of certainty. I know what I'm going to get from Robbie Lawler.
Really?
He's going to come out and he's going to grind. He's not going to throw with the same output that he necessarily was when he was champion. He's not going to beat anybody who's in the top 5 of the welterweight division right now. But when you look at his losses, he's got since 2017, a decision loss to RDA, a bulldog choke submission loss to Ben Askren, and he was whooping Ben Askren before then, a decision loss to Colby, and a decision loss to Magny. We're looking at guys that can very, very easily impose their will when it comes to wrestling and when it comes to the ground game. And I just don't see the same for Nick Diaz. I think he's one of the few people in the sport we can say is particularly dangerous off of his back when he gets taken down. But I don't see him doing a lot of the taking down. I don't see him doing a lot of the top control. So I don't know. I think in a straight up striking match, Nick Diaz might have the cardio advantage. And I think 5 rounds would probably play into his favor. But I don't know, man. Something is leading me to take Robbie Lawler here. Maybe it's what I see as the power discrepancy between the two on the feet. And maybe I'm not even sure what Nick Diaz's chin is capable of anymore. But I'm pretty confident in what Robbie Lawler's chin is still capable of. He hasn't been knocked out since Tyron did it to him back in 2016. In 2016, Tyron Woodley was a fucking animal. Carlos Condit couldn't knock him out. Rory McDonald couldn't knock him out. Johnny Hendricks.
Rory McDonald beat him.
I just mean he didn't knock him out.
Okay.
But
anyway, all right, so let me get back to my point on why Nick Diaz is going to win. Look, he's like I said, the output, the weaponized pressure is going to play a part, definitely, in my opinion. Now, it's going to be him throwing one extra punch. Whenever Robbie throws a punch, Nick Diaz is always going to throw one. And his counters and his accuracy are spot on. I went back and watched the tape on Nick Diaz. His accuracy on his punches, especially his counters while slipping, so underrated. You couldn't even imagine how underrated and criminally underrated he was, even though he didn't necessarily fight in the UFC throughout his career. His fight against Paul Daly for the Strikeforce title, crazy. And he, I don't think he's the hardest hitter. He's not, but it's the accuracy. It's hitting somebody on the button and turning out their lights. So I think that plays a part. When you can catch somebody clean on the chin, that's a whole new dimension. You don't have to have Francis power to knock somebody out when you have the accuracy and the slip and rip like Nick Diaz does. So, and I think he has the advantage on the ground too, and the dirty boxing. I think the clinch work is going to be huge in this fight. Just like with any other Diaz fight, I think the dirty boxing and going to the body, is going to especially going to take some out of Robbie Lawler as the fight goes along.
I can't count out the former champ, man. I can't count out Robbie Lawler in this fight just because, at the end of the day, he doesn't have that one punch knockout that I think he used to. But just looking at it, man, based on the logistics behind this fight, I just don't know what I'm getting from Nick Diaz, especially if there's an injury that's preventing him from missing weight that nobody's going to disclose to us until after the fight. I don't know if Robbie's going to beat him in a 5-round decision. I just don't think that Robbie Lawler is going to hold up for 5 rounds the same way he would have, several years ago. I think Nick Diaz is built to last 5 rounds. So I think if you get into the championship rounds, I will see that the advantage seems to sway pretty favorably towards Diaz. But I think in those first 3 rounds, I think Robbie's going to find a way to get it done. And I'd be willing to play Robbie Lawler by a 2nd round TKO.
All right, let's get in the odds. But remember this. It's Stockton, motherfucker.
Yeah.
All right, Nick Diaz coming at plus 105. Robbie Lawler is at minus 110. So last time I looked at this, they're both at minus 110. So it looks like money's coming in on Lawler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty even, almost a pick 'em in some situation. What are your props looking like?
In terms of props, I'm not 100% set yet, but what I will say is that if you're gonna play Robbie Lawler like I am, you need to get your bet in ASAP because it seems like Gage said that the money is only gonna go in his direction the more we get to learn about this Nick Diaz situation. And I just see those odds getting further apart. So if you're gonna play Nick Diaz, I think it would be safe to say don't lay that bet down until Saturday morning because you're gonna get better odds. But looking at it, man, I don't know. It's favorited to go to decision. So I think that either way you look at it, playing the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 150 is not a horrible bet, especially if you're gonna look at Lawler as a victor here. Let's see. I would take
I,
Lawler by TKO at plus 300. That's the only thing that really supports my theory here.
I
And
would
if
say, I would say honestly, I'd say Diaz wins by split / majority decision at plus 750. That's worth a shot to me. I mean, couple that with the plus 105 that he's at right now. I mean, that's pretty sweet.
look, I'm almost, and it's sad that when
But
Gage and
that's not something I'd be super confident in.
no, I just mean it's sad that when we see these mega odds, these massive odds, it's like I have to at least consider it. So looking at a hedge or looking at something that could play into my favor, even if I lose, the decision here, the pick here, Diaz by submission at plus 900. Robbie is not, unknown for being submitted. It's not like he's a black belt jujitsu specialist, perhaps like the Diaz brothers are. And I don't know. I don't hold it out. I think that Nick Diaz is a very smart fighter. So on the chance that he rocks Robbie Lawler, I don't see him jumping on it and going for the finish by TKO. I see him very craftily working a submission in there and tapping him out. I also think in the off chance that Nick Diaz ends up on his back here, a submission's always in play in that situation, man.
All right. Nick Diaz put a chimney on my fucking stick, boy. Let's
I was
go.
about to say Robbie Lawler, let's freaking jack it up. But first split CKE pick of the card. Let's see if we have any more.
All right.